We begin in Imo State, where Governor Hope Uzodinma says the killers of a former presidential advisor, Ahmed Gulak, will not go unpunished. At a media briefing in Owerri, Uzodinma said Ahmed Gulak was in Imo State for a national assignment with the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendment. He said the killing is not the character of Igbos, as the people of Imo State are very hospitable. Uzodinma commended the police for the progress made in the investigation. Gulak was murdered in Owerri, Imo capital, on Sunday while he was on his way to the airport.
Let me make it very clear that everything will be done by security agencies to find those who murdered Gulak and their sponsors. They will not, by the grace of God, escape the punishment they deserve. On our part as a government, we are not sparing any effort in ensuring that the murderers of this patriot are quickly arrested and prosecuted for their evil deeds. Imo people are very hospitable. The events of the last few weeks do not represent who we are, truly. Let me also, through this medium, commiserate with relations and families of the various kidnapping cases, armed robberies, banditry, and stray bullets in Imo State, and to inform them that government has been reaching out and will continue to reach out to all other victims.
Meanwhile, the police in Imo State say the killers of Ahmed Gulak and aides of former President Goodluck Jonathan have been shot dead during a gun battle on Sunday night. Gulak has been laid to rest in Abuja. Daraya Farouk reports. Abuja.
There was a somber mood on Sunday as the family and friends of Ahmed Gulak gathered to pay their final respects. He was laid to rest at the Gudu Cemetery in Abuja, following prayers at the National Mosque. Gulak's remains had been flown to the capital from Owerri just hours after he was shot dead. His relatives described his killing as a great loss.
This is a very sad news, actually. This happened to be my elder brother, my cousin. So this news came to us as shock this morning. I pray he will rest in peace. That's my prayer for him. We really miss him. He is a great man in Nigeria, I hope. He's a great man in Nigeria, which everybody respected him, and today he's no more. So all we wish is, may God give him eternal rest.
Gulak was remembered as a generous man, keen to help others.
Because of him, I'm here in Abuja. And he's the one sponsoring all of my children going to school, everything, all of my things. He's the one doing it for me. I'm the person who had this feeling. It's a great loss for us. We have lost this man. I don't know where to put it now. I'm from Adamawa State. He's my brother. He's the person taking responsibility of all of my children, myself. But I can't say anymore. May his soul rest in peace.
While the ceremony was taking place in Abuja, police in Imo State were busy tracking down his killers. Officers say the attackers were traced to Abo Mbise local government area and shot dead during a gun battle. A statement says the suspects were members of the secessionist group Indigenous People of Biafra and its security wing, the Eastern Security Network. 6 of the attackers and 4 other members of the group were killed. Weapons and vehicles were recovered. Back in Abuja, the sense of loss is great. Ahmed Gulak has been described as a true leader and patriotic Nigerian, and his killing not just a loss to his family, but the nation as a whole. Daraya Farouk, Arise News.
I know your views on this very sad story.
And so moving to just see the devastation of his family and those who loved him and were close to him. But apart from those people who are intimately connected to Ahmed Gulak, is the wider North and the sense of a huge injustice being done to one of their own in the Southeast, which is the last thing we need right now with the ethnic tensions. But thankfully, those attempts to make it a North-South issue or a North-Igbo issue. There are attempts to douse those tensions. And I think that's why Governor Uzodinma had to make that point of this is not an Igbo thing. It's not like Igbo people killed Ahmed Gulak. It's some individuals, some evil individuals, which exist in all tribes, and that point needs to be stressed.
Dr. Basi?
I think the point by the Imo State governor is well placed. You have the Imo State governor saying that the people of Imo State are hospitable. It's not part of the tradition of the people of Imo to go after their guests. You have Ohaneze Ndigbo also condemning the killing. You also have the IPOB and the ESN saying that they know nothing about this and that Ahmed Gulak was not a person of concern or interest to them, and that either IPOB or ESN has no reason to attack him. And I think that has helped to douse the tension, because the fear is that, as has been expressed by Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State, that this could be a throwback to 1966, whereby, you kill a person of another ethnic extraction in your region, and that could lead to, knock-on effects that could be of great danger to the entire country itself. And I think one development that I find instructive was that the Youth Council of Northern Nigeria, they had originally said that even Uzodinma himself should consider himself unsafe in the northern part of the country. But within the last 24 hours, even that Northern Youth Council of Northern Nigeria had to reverse itself to say that, well, they no longer hold Uzodinma as governor responsible. The lesson of it all is that, look, we all need to be careful in this country. As I pointed out yesterday, in 1914, June 28, 1914, it took the killing of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, and his wife to trigger a world war that lasted for about 4 or 5 years, that resulted in the killing of over 30 million people. Yeah. Even in the midst of that, you had the Spanish flu of 1918. At the end of the day, both political problem and natural disaster resulted in the death of over 50 million people. So we need to be careful. Nigeria is sitting on the very edge of the precipice, and people just have to be careful. I'm not impressed with the performance of the police in this regard. We've been told that the killers will be fished out and that, justice will be done. Okay, at the same time, we've been told that the six killers were identified. They were selling onions. I don't know the connection about onions. Was that a deliberate, suggestion, a kind of auto-suggestion? And all 6 of them were killed. So in other words, the police will say, well, we've killed all the alleged killers, so the case is closed. And it shouldn't be that way. When there are situations of this nature, we will expect that persons will be apprehended and that investigations will be carried out. So the police should not come around and say, we have seized 4 vehicles, we have killed 6 alleged killers, and then the case has been closed. That's not how it's done in other places, because we have too many cases of unresolved assassinations in Nigerian history. Yeah. And it's not today that we have this, and every time, they just cover it up and we move on. Yeah. We can't be moving on with people not feeling safe, not being safe, being killed in their own country.
We continue to pray for peace in this country. God rest the soul of Ahmed Gulak. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Rotosodiri, Michael Wilson, Adeso Omoro, Aaron Akejola give us updates on Africa, global business, COVID-19, and sporting activities across the globe. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the Morning Show right here on the Rise News channel. Let's go quickly to our friend, Rotosodiri, our dependable Rotosodiri. Rotos, how's it going? How are you? Hello, Rotos?
It's going fine, Rufai. Good morning to you. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Tundu. So we begin, of course, lots of oil and gas news. First of all, the Department of Petroleum Resources has concluded its marginal oil field bids, which began in June of last year. You had the director, Mr. Saki Owalu, on the morning show back in February, I believe, an exclusive interview with him where he discussed a number of issues with you three. The transparency of the process. Initially, when they started this in June of last year, about 591 companies. This is all indigenous, by the way. The beneficiaries of these bids are 100% indigenous oil and gas companies in Nigeria. 591 pre-qualified, 161 were shortlisted and advanced to the final stage. Again, this is 57 marginal fields spanning land, swamp, offshore that are going to be leased by the federal government. In terms of revenue and the impact, you're looking at about $500 million in signature bonuses that is estimated to be coming to the government. There was an award ceremony where the letters were, handed out to the beneficiaries, the bid winners. I think out of the 161, about 50% of them are the ones that were finally approved. So it's good for the federal government in terms of revenue as far as exploration is concerned and what this yields as far as oil production is concerned. So once again, the Department of Petroleum Resources has concluded the marginal field bid process that began in June of last year. This is the first time since 2003. That was the last process that was set in stone with respect to this bid process. So anyone born in 2003 is now 18 years old. I feel really, really old thinking about that. To the NNPC. The NNPC confirmed the exclusive that we shared yesterday on the Africa Business Update, that indeed the NNP, we're now moving to the NNPC now. The NNPC is indeed eyeing 5 more refineries with respect to the equity stake that they want to take. So it's not just the Dangote refinery. Remember, Mele Kyari, spoke to Arise News and told us that he indeed was looking at other refineries that produce 50,000 barrels per day or more. That's the threshold for what they're looking at as far as equity contributions are concerned. I know Rufai is going to talk about, renewables and where Nigerians' priority should be. But this is what's happening. Finally, I know Michael Wilson will probably touch on this more. And then the OPEC Plus, we move to OPEC Plus now. They're meeting today. Oil has now touched $70 a barrel. For Nigeria specifically, remember yesterday, we talked about how the NNPC said that they will be deducting 126 billion naira from what they are remitting to the Federation account because rising crude prices was increasing the landing costs of refined crude coming to our shores. So that was, now look at what's happening now with where crude oil now has touched $70 a barrel, because I believe that traders are expecting that OPEC won't change their output, although OPEC is bullish on output in the long term. But for the impact on Nigeria, if crude maintains its price trajectory right now, you're looking at higher landing cost of fuel. That is going to be higher costs for NNPC to bear, which is the sole importer, with respect to under-recovery subsidy. I wonder, is this putting pressure on the federal government and Labour in their ongoing talks? I hope it's putting pressure on them because the clock is ticking. From oil and gas now, it's a new month. It's June 1st. Remember, we talked about a month ago about the cash limits on DOM accounts. That is US dollar cash limits of $5,000 that were placed on cash deposits into into DOM accounts. I spoke with a number of people who had to keep cash at home, right? And who couldn't who had excess cash that they couldn't deposit in their DOM accounts. They were lying at home. So it's a bit of a security risk. You can expect this new month a number of either one DOM account deposits in cash placed around different DOM accounts. So you might see more DOM accounts opened at the beginning of this month in order to spread that limit around. So possibly more DOM accounts being opened and more deposits going around. But with respect to those cash limits, it is a bit of a security risk because, again, just the investigations that I carried out, there's a lot of dollar cash sitting at home because of that $5,000 cash limit on DOM accounts. But again, the central bank is saying that, listen, as far as this is concerned, Naira is what should be spent, and you shouldn't be hoarding cash in your DOM accounts, US dollar. Finally, the Bank of Ghana, moving to Ghana, they surprised everyone yesterday, markets, by cutting the benchmark interest rate to 13.5%. Everyone, even myself included, almost everyone, expected the Bank of Ghana to maintain interest rates. But it looks like they're a little little worried about the outlook for the economy in Ghana. IMF has projected that Ghana's economy will grow by 4.6%. Inflation is at 8.5%. I would give my right arm to have inflation at 8.5% here in Nigeria. But the Bank of Ghana, and you're looking at Dr. Ernest Edison, who is the Bank of Ghana central bank governor there. He essentially said that, listen, they want to make sure that they can boost aggregate demand and do what they can to support the economy. Again, as Doctor has mentioned, others on the fiscal side, there's only so much you can do in terms of tools. But that's the report we have as far as the African business update is concerned.
Right. I mean, great stuff. I'm really excited that you're finally seeing sort of like the Bank of Ghana, taking the bull by the horn. Because when you look at the economic dynamics in Ghana, Rotus, it's even deeper than what's seen on the surface. Yeah, you've got 8.5% inflation rate and the likes, but they need to restart the economy. A lot of SMEs are not doing well in the economy. Hence, the series of protests that happened recently says fix the country in Ghana. That was happening. And let's not forget that they've got a very large deficit. I think that debt to GDP ratio is close to 80%, about 76 or 77%.
Correct.
And you need to really bolster the economy in Ghana, to be able to aid production and the likes and get small businesses running. Because once they start to run, then they start to feed off taxes back to the economy. And I mean, government can get that much in their revenue across board. So I'm excited about Ghana. Secondly, I'll talk about the bid rounds. Finally, let's see. But, we're done with the bid rounds. Yes, it will go business as usual. But the question will be, there are still some things on ground we need to sign. We need to deepen local content. We're going to talk about PIB. When is this going to finally sail through? When is PIGB and other components of the PIB going to sail through? Because we can't keep having bid rounds and getting local people into the marginal fields and, having them work up and running and working. But we are not deepening local content. We're not deepening our own expertise as regards this area, because majorly on those rigs, on those fields, you're still having a lot of foreign expertise and foreign technology coming in. And how can we deepen that here? I mean, that should be the conversation we should have. Good one for them.
Well,
yeah.
Well, remember, Rufai, this is 100% indigenous companies that are benefiting from this.
Yeah.
Just to point it out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But when you look at the indigenous companies, what technology do they bring to the fore?
Anyway,
that has always been my concern. What technology do they bring to the fore? So we need to deepen that technology base locally. It's not just indigenous companies. Indigenous companies can bring a lot of foreign technology into the business. When are we going to have a lot of Nigerian technology in the Nigerian oil space? That has always been my challenge.
Well, I think the big point about the marginal fields, it's not just about indigenous participation. All the 57 companies are said to be indigenous companies. Over 163 companies, 57 marginal fields were told. But the whole objective is to encourage indigenous participation. But those companies will also still need support at the level of capacity for the idea of local content to be able to make sense in the long run. But the politics of it, I thought you were going to talk about the nature, the character of the companies that got those 57 marginal fields. Because you'll recall that the people of the Niger Delta, specifically PANDEF, the group led by Chief E.K. Clark, the Niger Delta Front, they were saying, and they insisted that, look, the people of the Niger Delta must be given the right of first refusal. Has that concern been addressed? At the end of the day, the emerging picture in terms of how those marginal fields have been allocated. Otherwise, we may still have issues. And then secondly, I mean, how much is the federal government making from these, marginal fields? What is the cost? And, what is going to follow up in that regard? I think we need more information. There should be full disclosure in terms of, the companies that have benefited from this bid round, and also, what exactly the federal government has been able to get from it. That's one. Second, OPEC. Yes, the Joint Technical Committee met yesterday. The ministers from OPEC Plus, they will meet today. It looks like maybe, yes, they will sustain their position with regard to increasing supply. And Iran probably will not constitute a problem because for now, the increased output from Iran, OPEC has been able to accommodate it. But the question here is this. Brent crude is now selling at $68.79, about $70, as you pointed out. Now, the benchmark for the 2021 budget in Nigeria is, I think, $40, right, as approved.
40,
okay.
Yeah, 40.
$40,
correct, yeah.
yes. I think it's $40. And we're producing about 1.7, million barrels per day. Now, how do you relate that to all this talk about likely increase in fuel price? Because it will look like we're making more money. If the benchmark is $40 and now we're hitting $70 and it's likely to go higher as COVID recedes and there is a greater demand. So why is it that in Nigeria we don't seem to get it right? Or is it that there is a discrepancy between what we produce and what the spot price says?
Yeah, so look, anything over the benchmark goes into the excess crude account. That's on the revenue side. The issue is what's on the cost side, the liabilities. And this is now going back to NNPC, again, with what they said, reducing the amount that they contribute to the Federation accounts because they've had to spend so much in under recovery. It's the cost side of refined fuel coming back in. That's what is reducing what we're making in revenue.
Okay, so what is the way forward then? Maybe Labour is right in this regard.
Way forward is refineries. You got to get your own refineries and refine your own crew so you don't have to pay so much in subsidies.
And complain about landing costs.
And be serious about the refineries because it's one thing to spend money on a refinery that is not working. But thank you so much for your time, Rotus. Really appreciate you, as always. So move on to Michael Wilson. Michael, good morning. How's it going?
Morning, fine, thank you. Shares in Asia Pacific reacting very mixed way to what we've just had manufacturing figures out from China for May. Mainland stocks basically no up to high dough about all this, which is quite extraordinary, but it expanded at the fastest pace this year, did China, and it's a reasonable private. It's the Caixin index, obviously, and it's quite a reasonable temperature gauge of what's going on there. In China, too, I think this is much more important, actually. They've had a major policy shift on children. Now, if you remember, the country scrapped its decades-old one-child policy in 2016. It's now, there was a two-child limit on it. That didn't really work, and they are clearly very worried about their population numbers and the demographics thereof, which, again, we've talked about. So now, latest move, couples can have 3 children if they wish. South Korea, I turned to South Korea just after China merely because good indication there of exports, particularly semiconductors and so on, and car shipments, a 45.5% surge in exports. That's actually says to me and says to the world markets as well, much more importantly, that Asia's 4th largest economy is actually showing signs of growth and building confidence in global economic recovery, which is actually what we all want. Here's a little thing, a little item for you. 2 of China's rivals to that stock trading at Robinhood in China. They're looking abroad from China because their clients are clearly saying to them, we want to deal in cryptocurrencies. And obviously, we've talked before about how Beijing is trying to cut down domestically on this very, very volatile market. So 2 of those going abroad. US stock futures slightly low. Remember on holiday yesterday for Memorial Dow Jones fell 35. The Wall Street SPAC craze has been derailed very, very slightly. Only 4% of fees now for Wall Street, as opposed to 25% in the first quarter. Investors really put off by the high cost of fees and so on, disappointing share performance, and also regulators saying, actually, do you know what, we're going to look at this actually fairly closely because we don't think it's very healthy to have a market like this. So there's a number of things changing there. The price of Tesla vehicles is increasing. Elon Musk, for it is him, tweeted yesterday, but the fact of the matter is the supply chain increases are increasing. Sorry, were you going to speak to me?
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Michael. Right. I quickly want to talk about... Okay.
I haven't...
Okay.
I've got a lot more. Well, I'll give you a couple of other things. I thought you were trying to speak to me. I do beg your pardon. Dedicated terminal for passengers arriving at Heathrow from red list countries. That's number 1. And something which delights everybody here, that Heinz is actually going to start making tomato sauce again in this country, and we all love tomato sauce and salad cream and mayonnaise. So that's very good news. You touched on OPEC Plus. Reuters touched on that. Very, very important meeting today. What they won't know, and what we don't know, is of course whether or not they will actually be banking on a world recovery to help their definition of production versus consumption and all the rest of it. And more oil on the market does not necessarily mean good news for oil producers. Neither does the price at sort of $70 a barrel. So it's a very, very delicate balance for them to explore. That is the global view this morning. Oh, and US jobs figures at the end of the week, of course, but probably talk more about those tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Real quickly, I want to take you to Germany. Inflation rates in Germany. I was talking about, the connection of American inflation going to other parts of the world. We're beginning to see knock-on effects in other parts of the world. I don't want to call Germany a bellwether for the European economy, but it is something we should look at critically. One of the biggest economies out of Europe. Inflation rising, numbers there. Can we say, oh, okay, things are under control, or it's an indication?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I would look at Germany as being a bellwether of the EU, and I would look at what goes on there. Are they going to adapt to post-pandemic life? In other words, does that Mittelstand, the smaller companies that they have there, the four family companies, heavily based in manufacturing, heavily based on supply, heavily based on supplied components, heavily based on semiconductors and so on, is that going to survive satisfactorily into the post-pandemic Europe? Or are they going to put up with inflation for a while because they're no doubt suffering from it? And I don't think it's anything much. It's a lot to do with Germany. And how will the European Central Bank actually look at that? And what will they be interested in? First thing. So the European Central Bank has clearly got to look at inflation, but it also has to make up its mind as when it turns the taps off. That's the bottom line.
Well, Michael, good morning. Quickly, I would like to ask you about China population policy and what the long-term impact is likely to be. The decision that was taken yesterday by the Politburo to now say, well, they are reviewing the family policy. Now in China, you can have up to 3 children. They're still proposing it. They've not announced it officially, but that was one of the decisions that came out of the meeting yesterday of the Politburo with the President Xi Jinping in attendance. Now, what is the economic side of it? More population, more people, and what is the long-term effect in terms of the economy and economic growth in China? And secondly, we have talked about oil prices this morning and the OPEC meeting that would hold today, the meeting of the ministers. What do you think is likely to happen? Are they going to increase output? Is Iran's increased output a threat? And I was talking about Nigeria. Here in Nigeria, our budget is a benchmark at $40. Now, the pump price, the spot price is $70, but it doesn't seem to be translating into any advantage, perhaps because our production, quota has been heavily reduced. And as a result of that, even when the spot price increases, it doesn't quite translate into much advantage for us. Those two issues.
Right. First of all, what the price is up like a rocket and then down like a feather. It's the same in every country. There is very little relationship between wholesale oil prices and pump prices simply because of the gap between the two. In this country, for example, garages do not make a lot of money out of fuel, and therefore they sell food and so on. So shops begin to appear on the forecourt. So as far as OPEC's concerned, I think what we're going to see is I wouldn't expect a lot of change. There are too many variables around. If I were them, I'd be really careful. Number one, because we don't know what's happening with Iran. We don't know whether they're going to get back oil production. We haven't had any results. We've had some optimistic sounds from those talks, but we haven't heard anything else. Secondly, where's this growth coming from? I mean, if they're betting on on economic growth, fine. Economic recovery, certainly. But what about India, for example? What are we seeing there? We don't know, do we? So there are too many imponderables, I would have thought, at the moment, for it strictly to be about supply and demand. So it'd be very interesting to see how they actually deal with this, because OPEC itself, those big members of OPEC, have to deal with outside members, the plus members, who are only interested in increasing revenue. Well, OPEC, the wiser heads of OPEC, may say, well, I don't think we should be doing that right now. Why don't we have a closer look at the results of what's actually going on and what the economies of the world are going to do before we make a decision about that? As far as China's concerned, yeah, very interesting story, isn't it? I mean, I wouldn't like to live in a country where it's prescribed as to how many children I actually have or don't have or want or wish for. However, that is the way of life in China. What are they doing? They're trying to prop up an economy which is going to depend upon having to support a lot of old people, and you only do that, in simple terms, whether it be a socialist environment like it is in China or a capitalist environment like it is in the United States, the UK, and also in Nigeria, for example, by having a young workforce which is working and providing taxes. It's a simple, I don't know what the statistics are, but it's a simple thought, isn't it? Unless you have a load of young people in jobs, which is what China ought to be doing right now. And the one-child policy did not work. I don't know why that happened in 2016, but I can't even remember the story then, but it was rather a weird thing to do. They relaxed it then, nothing happened. I mean, people did not have more children. So they're saying, come on, we want you to have more children. Well, good luck with that, but that's the formula. You've got to have young people in jobs to support an elder population, which China has now. So will it become that's the thing.
Well, thank you very much, Michael.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Michael. For update on COVID-19 pandemic, Adesuwa Moro is here with us. Adesuwa, great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Now, coronavirus infections remain high, but well below their peak as the world struggles against new variants and threats, as well as unequal vaccination globally. There have now been over 171 million cases of the infections globally, and well over 3.5 million deaths as well. 1.8 billion vaccine doses have been administered across the world. Here in Nigeria, 203 new infections and 28 deaths were recorded in 6 states, with Benue State, North Central, posting 178 of the new infections. The NCDC says this rise we are seeing from the 46 or 40 we recorded yesterday to 203 is as a result of backlog data from Benue and Nasarawa states recorded from February to May this year. It's unclear why we had that backlog, but an addition of that backlog has now brought all these figures together. Meanwhile, 20 states have now commenced the second dose exercise of the vaccination here in Nigeria. So far, 73,465 people have received second jabs of the AstraZeneca vaccine. We are still seeing more strategically take that leadership role to ensure that their citizens who have got the first jab also go for the second jab by taking theirs as well. And in Nigeria, the federal government has launched a second phase of the COVID-19 seroprevalence survey aimed at estimating the percentage of people with antibodies or immunity from the virus in FCT and Kano State. The survey is funded by the United States Center for Disease Control, but it is to be executed by the University of Maryland, Baltimore, Nigerian office. It is due to commence in the first week of June in 38 enumeration centers across the FCT and Kano, as I mentioned. You recall that the first phase had 4 states, including Lagos, Enugu, Nasarawa, and Gombe. Now, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, who is the WHO head, is calling for the world to look beyond the current pandemic and learn lessons for future outbreaks. The head of the WHO is pushing for an international treaty to help the world plan for similar crises rather than countries looking out for themselves. He is saying that a treaty will force improved sharing, accountability, and response. And the WHO has also helped to simplify discussion around variants and avoid stigma. The WHO has assigned new names to key coronavirus variants after the letters of the Greek alphabet. So if we could have those variants up on the screen for you. These are the 4 coronavirus variants considered of global concern. They are known generally by the public as the UK, South Africa, Brazil, and India variants. However, now they have been given the names after the Greek letter alphabet, the Greek alphabet rather, and Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, according to their order of detection. While the other key variants of interest, these ones on your screen, have been given labels from Epsilon to Kappa. The WHO says scientific names will continue to be used in research, but this labeling is easier, especially for non-scientific audience. The choice of the Greek alphabet came after months of deliberation, with other possibilities such as Greek gods considered by experts. However, they boiled down to this one. So it's much easier for the non-scientific audience to remember these variants. And finally, this morning, Burkina Faso, one of the several countries in Africa that has yet to launch a vaccination campaign, received its very first shipment under the Global Vaccine Sharing Scheme, COVAX. 115,200 AstraZeneca doses arrived into the airport, the capital, Ouagadougou, and of course were welcomed by a local delegation led by the Health Minister, Chamalange Ouedraogo.
Well, very quickly, let's start with what the WHO is doing, trying to use the Greek alphabet, originally the Phoenician alphabet, to address the principal point about labeling, about stigmatization. You know, we've been talking about the Indian variant, the Brazilian variant, the Kent variant, which is the one that comes from the UK, and the controversy that all of that generated. And I think, yes, in terms of the principle of it, yes, it's a good move to look for neutral, you know, non-stigmatizing, clunky alphabets to do it. But the concern here is, you know, how popular will these alphabets be with the public? And within the Greek alphabet range, there are just 24 alphabets, from alpha to omega. You know, you've listed some of them. There are still others. Chi, yes. Nu, Pi, Pi, and all of that. You know, so how do people remember those alphabets? But the principle of it is that, look, the entire world should focus on how this problem can be solved and see it appropriately as a global human issue that requires solidarity. And I think it's also along the same lines that the main message coming out of the meeting of the global meeting of health ministers by the WHO is also, again, about how to come up with an international treaty on the COVID pandemic to prepare the world ahead so that response will be faster, there will be better cooperation, there will be better solidarity. And interestingly, some of the countries, particularly from the European Union, are supporting this. You know, the other day I cited the example of the UK, Boris Johnson, talking about a global pandemic tracker, which the UK was proposing in collaboration with the WHO. So these are interesting issues. But beyond all of this, yes, Burkina Faso is donating the vaccines that it cannot use to Ivory Coast. It's alone. Ivory Coast, which has a better program, you know, in terms of immunization, has said, okay, when Ivory Coast gets its own supply, they will return it to Burkina Faso. See, this is all about the capacity of African countries. You could look at it two ways. Instead of donating the consignment out of the 750,000 doses that it has, that Burkina Faso cannot administer, should it not have been the other way around, for Burkina Faso to ramp up its own immunization program? That, in my view, is the question.
Well, I think Burkina Faso cannot lie to itself. It does understand that in the midst of scarcity, it's just foolhardy to destroy and keep destroying these vaccines that we do not have enough of. So it's decided, and I think that it's a brilliant idea to give out the vaccines to those who have the capacity and to get them in return when the next shipment comes, rather than have these vaccines destroyed.
All right. So for me, naming according to Greek alphabet, it's a norm in science. I mean, scientists like to name everything according to Greek alphabet. And from chemistry to biology to other areas of science, you normally use that because, yeah, it's quick to recognize, too. You can make a quick note on it. 3, it's good for the extinction and the like. So me saying that is just in line with science and science reportage. But the issues I'd like to touch on is what we are doing here to be able to get more vaccines. That is still very, very nebulous, as it were, to me. I was checking the numbers out of America. America is vaccinating up to 170 million people now, coming up to 170 million people. So they've crossed half threshold of their population. If their population is about 340 million people by the last census, so they've crossed half threshold.
With one dose.
With one dose.
Yes.
Of their population. We are a population that is just about 100 million shy of America. We have just hit about less than 1% of our population, or 2 or 3% of our population. The question is, what are we doing? What conversations are we having? Nigeria should stop seeing itself as just another country in Africa. We are big. No other African country has our size, so we can't compare ourselves with the likes of Burkina Faso and the likes. What are we doing to get this in? By now, because of our size, we should look beyond any partnership, even with COVAX, and try striking our individual personal deals. We are a big population. We're beginning to see the progression of the number again. NCDC can say otherwise and say, okay, it's a backlog from February, but we're beginning to see the upsurge in the number again. And so I'd like to say a very big thank you to you for your time, as always.
Thank you, guys.